All right.
Hello,
I'm ready to
SD.
get started whenever you are, Bo. Happy to chat and share some thoughts on releasing content in the current universe that we live in.
All right. Well, please just briefly tell us kind of your backstory and what is it that you do?
Sure. Let me adjust the camera here. I'm a artist manager, producer, and been doing it for 20 years. Um, I'm also a professor, teach music business at a couple different universities. I teach at Emory School of Business, where we just moved last year. Still have a position at the University of Memphis, where I ran their music business program for 6 years. I also teach at Kennesaw State University, which is a top 10 ranked music business program. So been really busy. And I manage a bunch of artists. And this year, as I've been backing off of teaching and gave up my tenure track position in Memphis, I've kind of gotten back into management full on. It really was. Some of you will know the band Making Movies because I believe that you guys are in Kansas City. It was that band that kind of gave me the itch again to get back into developing artists about 2.5 years ago at the Folk Alliance Conference in Kansas City, Missouri. I was there as an academic. I was giving a talk about how musicians make a living. Um, and I saw Enrique with his dreadlocks and his crazy band, and they were doing a really cool piece with a police officer of all collaborations. It was, I don't know if anyone was there, Folk Alliance 2017, I guess
Yeah, I
that
was
was.
there.
And I was really bummed out when I looked on their website and it said, oh, they have management. I was like, oh, well, shoot. I was just a fan. And I said hi to them. Anyway, it turned out they didn't really have management. And long story short, they got me back into this crazy business of management. I had been doing it for a long time. I didn't completely leave it because I had a couple of clients when I became a professor and started having kids and stuff. But um, now I'm really addicted again. I just signed an artist last week. Now we manage 9 artists, several of whom aren't even listed on my website. So really excited about this world of developing artist careers and basically putting the infrastructure in place for not just their touring businesses, which right now are really depressing, but their record businesses as well. So label services, I guess, would be the term. Um, I do all that stuff. Happy to talk about whatever you guys want to, and happy to just give you an overview. Um, but I don't know if we want to make this more conversational or if you want me to. Um, I probably don't want me to lecture for too long. So um,
Well, I just have just a couple of questions for you, and if anyone has any questions, please just use the chat and just write it in there, and we'll certainly open it up here in a little bit. But a lot of people right now are working on releases during the pandemic because it's sort of an actionable thing that someone can do. And as the title of the webinar says, I was wanting just to get advice on releasing audio recordings, video, and anything. And also would love if you could just share the kind of disastrous story with the Making Movies live stream and how the bot took it down and as a cautionary tale.
oh, so painful. Well, we'll start with that since that just that was a tough one. So yeah, I guess I'll start with that. If you guys are all familiar with Making Movies, we launched a project called Americana, which is retelling the American music story through the lens of the Latinx community and the Black community. Um, and it was an amazing project. What an honor! I got to work in the studio with Cedric Burnside, Making Movies, Terrence Simeon, all these amazing people, and we basically produced a documentary, a little longer than maybe it should have been, but about 2 hours long. And 25 minutes into the show, the detection bot or the algorithm from Warner Music Group thought that the Los Lobos recording that we had done was theirs, that they owned it, that they controlled the rights. So this happens all the time in the world of live streaming. Traditionally, it would pop up as an issue where someone's like a DJ at home and they're they're hosting a little party on their Facebook Live, and they play the latest Ariana Grande track, and 50 seconds in, the bot is supposed to detect it and say, that's Ariana Grande. You don't have the right to do that. And then it takes down the feed. But it's not supposed to happen when you work really, really hard and produce all the content and control the content and certainly have the rights to release the content. There was no, Warner Music Group had no right to do that. But of course, you know, the irony is that the feed was blowing up. We had 6,000 people watching at that exact moment, which we've never done before. We've never gotten 6,000 people in a feed at one time. So it was a bit of a momentum killer. Very, very sad, but gave us some momentum, I guess, to try it again. We know it can work. If 6,000 people want to watch it in October, then hopefully they'll want to watch it in February when we try it one more time. I guess the lesson there would just be to, when you're doing live streams, you're releasing content through live streams, just make sure it's your content. But know that the same thing that happened to us could happen to you. Potentially someone could confuse your content with theirs and put a claim. And, you know, I could go on and on about the inefficiencies of that system, but Facebook Music's not a music platform, so they don't have the technology to deal with it. Instead, what they did is they said to the three big companies that control the music industry, the major labels, they said, you will have the power to kill a feed. So they gave up their right. Like, I literally got a phone call Saturday night at 9 o'clock from one of the heads of Facebook Music saying, I'm so sorry. There's nothing we can do. We don't police the content. Warner Music Group, Universal Music Group, they do. So it's really messed up. That whole world needs to be rebuilt. Or Facebook needs to frankly build out a music platform, much like YouTube has. YouTube, when someone has an issue with your feed that doesn't kill the feed, they file a claim, and then they get to monetize that feed. So it's very different experience. Our YouTube feed stayed up. Unfortunately, we had 400 people watching YouTube. The Facebook feed is where all of our community partners, of which we had 60, had hosted watch parties, and we had all of this grassroots organizing and marketing that went into getting people to watch it on Facebook. So the irony was that that's where the audience was, and unfortunately, that's where it came down. So there are some lessons to learn from that, but don't DJ Ariana Grande music on Facebook Live.
What about, say, you know, I have a question here from Ezgi Karakush, who is in a project with me, and we're going to be hosting some live streaming kind of watch parties of content that we have already created that is ours. How does that feedback loop work with the bots? I mean, I understand it's our content, and we're doing it from our YouTube channel, which, you know, that's where all the stuff is parked. But we're still at risk, right?
I mean, I suppose anyone's at risk of someone getting something confused. If you play 50 seconds of music that sounds like something else, what's crazy is the technology keeps evolving. So now, you know, when you cover, I mean, you're not at risk for YouTube. YouTube's not going to kill your feed. But if you, say, cover a work that's not public domain, meaning that the composer didn't die 70 years ago, or whatever it is, like that, there's detection software that will detect the melody from your performance and identify that that song belongs to that publisher or that writer. It's really incredible. It's quite impressive. Like, by the end of our show, I had 3 claims that were filed, and they were rightfully filed claims. The song that Froda Toloache performed was not their song. And in fact, even if it was their song, their publisher, I would expect, would have filed the claim on their song. So the way it works is, in a 2-hour performance, you kind of go through pro rata and figure out of 2 hours of music or 2 hours of content, this percentage belongs to this publisher. And I swear we could go down YouTube royalties. We could spend an hour on this, because most people don't realize there's actually 4. Most musicians on YouTube don't realize there's a publishing royalty that's generated from a YouTube stream. That's not collected by a distributor or an aggregator, meaning that it's not tied to the master. It's actually a separate revenue stream that's hard to collect. You need to be affiliated with a music publisher or a publishing admin company. I would recommend Song Trust.
Yes.
They're great. Song Trust does it for you. But I don't want to get us too far down in the weeds of the music business, because we can go. But I'm happy to answer a specific question about your upcoming event. I don't have any great advice for you other than, I mean, some people, if you research this, they'll say, well, you need to whitelist your content. And I tried, and that's, you know, the opposite of blacklisting, whitelisting, getting permission and granting permission to others. But the thing about this scenario is that it's not that you're trying to grant other people, you're not trying to whitelist or give other people the right to broadcast your music, which is a thing. You can do that. You're trying to be the person to issue, you know, release your own music. So there's no mechanism to do it. Or if there is, I haven't learned it yet. I don't know how to go to these companies in advance and say to them, I'm going to play a show. I own the music. Please don't confuse your music with my music. I've been researching this and I haven't found that. It would be insane. It would be, you would reach out to everyone in hopes that they don't make this mistake. It's kind of a crazy world that we're in right now. Facebook is not a music platform. Don't tell them I said that, but they don't have the infrastructure in place. YouTube does.
I see. So, you know, back in the day when someone would make a recording, you would, you know, buy these mechanical licenses from Harry Fox and, you know, punch in how does that work now with digital distribution if you're doing a cover of someone else's works?
Yeah, it's changing, right? And the answer today is going to be different in January, because the copyright law was updated for the first time in decades with the Music Modernization Act. So right now, the collection for mechanicals is through Harry Fox, and it's automatic. Like and I'm talking about the world of digital. I'm not talking about the rare case where someone sells a CD or a vinyl. In that case, it's still the same rules apply. The statutory rate, 9.1 cents, depending on the length of the song, gets paid out. So in other words, if you cover someone's song and you manufacture 1,000 records, you owe the publisher or the songwriter $100 or $91, depending on how long the song is. But the question that I think you're asking, Bo, is in the world of digital, right? You're talking about,
yes.
Yeah. So it's changing. Right now, the law says that 10.5% of Spotify's revenue, I'll just use Spotify as an example. So, you know, assume it's the same for Tidal, Apple Music, and the other DSPs, but 10.5% of the revenue from the whatever you call it, the consumption of the music, since no one's buying it, right? They're leasing the right to listen to music on the platform, or they're consuming music for free in exchange for watching advertisements. You know, they call that the freemium model. The 10.5% of that revenue gets sent over to various entities. Harry Fox is one. There's other organizations, Music Reports. There's another. They collect mechanical royalties for streams. So Harry Fox is the big one, but they won't be in January. I mean, they'll still be an important piece of the music industry, but the MLC launches in January. It's already launched. It officially takes effect, and that'll be the new government-run agency that administers mechanical royalties, which will be a vast improvement. It'll be more money to songwriters, more money to publishers, be way more transparent. Like the way that system works, where Spotify is supposed to pay 10.5%, it has nothing to do with how many people listen to your songs. It's all a gross estimation. It's really messed up. The more you learn about the music business, you realize how messed up it is.
That's why you want to get right back into it, right?
Yeah. Oh, because the touring is so lucrative right now. We're raking it in with all those gigs that are being booked. That's how I'm supposed to make a living. The music used to be the place where the money was made. And then touring was often like the promotional tool to promote your records. And then, you know, when music became free and Spotify happened and Napster happened and the digital revolution kicked in, everything kind of flipped the other way around. So it's basically, okay, so the music is there to create buzz so I can play festivals and get great gigs. And, you know, touring is really become the focus in terms of revenue for most of us in the music business. which is why this year sucks so much, is that there is none of that, or very little of it. But I won't dwell on that. We don't need to talk about that, because we all know how hard COVID is on a lot of industries, not just
Sure.
that of touring musicians.
Well, Patrick wants to know if you know anything about the new BandCamp live stream service. It was just recently announced.
I do not, but I'm the idiot who thought Ethan was not going to succeed. He came in my office in the Bay Area when he launched BandCamp. I'm friends with him, the founder of I shouldn't say I'm friends with him now. I was friends with him, and then I was the idiot that thought that Topspin was going to win and he wouldn't be able to compete. And then look at what he did now. So I'm not an expert on BandCamp. I think BandCamp's awesome. I do not know. I haven't even seen their live streaming plan. Patrick, what are they doing?
Can you unmute? Yeah, here you go.
Sorry, it was just announced yesterday. So I had a couple artists share it with me. I've just heard that Facebook and YouTube don't like each other. And so in general, you're going to have issues no matter how much due diligence you do. And so from what I understood, BandCamp would allow you to sell tickets, kind of like Stage It. I don't know if you ever did any of that for like a live stream. Yeah. I'm just suggesting maybe look into that if you know you're going to try to take a stab at that again in February. Or Bo and Ezgi for your project. We're digging into it.
There he is, Ethan Diamond. Smart dude. I should have listened to him. Yeah, this looks awesome. I mean, there's a ton of really cool models that have evolved. I mean, look at what I'm really fond of, the platform that my friends at Six Man built here in Atlanta called, now I'm going to forget what it's called. Topeka, that's what it's called. I mean, they did like a couple $100,000 in sales for a Jason Isbell concert. That's pretty impressive. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I haven't even checked it out yet. This just happened, but it looks great. And I think what Ethan's done at BandCamp is he's built a brand that people really respect. So even if it is redundant and there's 5 other platforms that do this, I bet you they'll succeed, because it's they do really cool things for artists. Like every month they have a day where all the money goes to the artist. And that's really clever. It's really, really nice way to support artists. My class that I'm teaching right now on digital distribution is using BandCamp as their final project to, basically demonstrate how to do direct-to-fan marketing. But the principles of BandCamp, I've been preaching. Back in the day, I was pushing Topspin, and that went away, and now BandCamp is still here. But the idea of selling directly to your fans is really important. The most important reason of all is that you know who they are and you can reach them, right? Making Movies has, 50,000 people or something a month listen to their music on Spotify. And for me to engage that audience, I have to pay Spotify a lot of money to run ads to reach those 50,000 people. If I had said no music on Spotify and Making Movies music was only on BandCamp, perhaps we'd have more data. It's hard to make that decision. Spotify, in defense of Spotify, has exposed Making Movies music to millions of people all over the world. BandCamp wouldn't have done that. So it's that's the tough thing about music marketing. You got to find that balance.
Okay, so Sean asks, the last time we released a cover, we purchased rights from Harry Fox for a certain number of streams. Does that model change in January? So yeah, that's definitely happening.
Yeah, it definitely changed. In fact, it actually changed a little while ago. People just, you didn't really need to purchase a mechanical license for streams. The money from streaming automatically goes to the rights holder. That's just old Harry Fox sloppy business that they didn't update. They just took a little bit of your money they didn't have the right to. You should pay. I mean, it's funny how it works. The larger the scale of the artist, the more trust there is that's given to them and their team. Meaning that a successful artist on a major label doesn't pay Harry Fox mechanicals or doesn't pay in advance. Like against mechanicals, like you would as an independent artist. Independent artists, you pay based on your manufacturing up front, right? So when you manufactured 1,000 CDs, disc makers or one of those companies is supposed to say do you have your mechanicals? Did you write, you own all the songs? And if you don't own all the songs, they're supposed to make you, or you're supposed to show them proof that you've paid the $91 or the $100.
Mm-hmm.
Not every company does that, but that physical world is still going to be the same. The digital world very much has evolved. The rate, the 10.5% of revenue rate has gone up a little bit, which is good, but you do not need to pay mechanical royalties for streams. That automatically is paid by the DSP, by the Apple Music, by the Spotify, by those companies. So if you're paying it up front, then you're paying the publisher twice, which is nice.
So when you're prompted
money.
to add, when the question comes up, do you own this master for the track that's a cover? You just answer the same on everything, I guess.
Sorry, when you say, do you own the master, from whose survey, or who would be asking you that?
Well, you know, when I submit things to digital distribution agencies like the Orchard or DistroKid or something, that's always a question if you own the master. And then also who the composer is. And that's where it stops.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you should answer those correctly, right? Because you do want them to direct money to the right composer, to the right publisher.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I have to say, I've done this so many times. There's like the terms that get thrown around. I can see some of your eyes maybe don't follow everything I'm saying. Like, don't be afraid to ask a question. Like when I say publisher, in the context of artists who are not super established, just understand that means composer, the person who owns the song. So you as a songwriter are the publisher. Whether or not you've partnered with another company to help you administer your publishing, or maybe make sure that you're not leaving money on the table, that doesn't make you any less of a publisher. You're still a publisher. But the lingo that folks like me throw around gets kind of confusing. So feel free to just shout out if I'm not being clear.
Okay, Patrick's got another question. Patrick, you want to just address him yourself?
Yeah, Ben, so pre-COVID, if you were to plan an album release from start to finish, recording, any other assets like videos, things like that, PR, bookings, what would you recommend? We have a lot of artists come to us, and I would say a couple a week these days, like, hey man, I want you to put out our record. And I try to kind of walk them through the way I think things would work, which is I know about 1% of what I need to know. And so I tell them, you know, what's your goal? Like, what's your end run? Are you just trying to get this out there? Are you trying to take over the world? Do you just want to get it out to get it out? Do you want to make money, et cetera, et cetera? So if you were to tell someone kind of from start to finish, because I remember the last making movies, I'm Another You, the process to how long it took just to get the record done, and then all the next steps before they started to like roll it out.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Just give me the question one more time though. What do you specifically want me to speak to?
So you've got an artist that wants to release an album. What would that encompass? Like, what would that timeline like? So obviously we got to record all the other pieces.
Yeah, it's tough. It's just it's like at what stage of their career, right? It's like there's not an answer for. Unfortunately, it's tricky. I can give you some examples of trends and things I've seen that go wrong. I mean, you mentioned I'm Another You. That record was made before I worked with the band. I came in right as they were releasing it. They made the mistake, I think, of taking too long. Like there was a 3-year process from cutting the record to putting it out. My first bit of advice is don't let that happen, because your creative energy drifts. That's an amazing record. Like Steve Berlin did an amazing job. It's brilliant, but you're only so excited for so long about your own work. So, I mean, one bit of advice would be don't create your masterpiece and then sit on it for 2 years, and then you're going to write a bunch of better songs, a bunch of better music, and lose interest in your record that you sunk all that energy into. So there's one little bit of advice. Create a timeline and make a timeline that works for you. Like you want to you pull up CD Baby DIY Musician, and there's a bunch of really great ideas. Chris Robley's brilliant, friend of mine, the guy that runs that. Like he's smart. He knows what he's talking about. Doesn't mean that the stuff he's telling you to do is a good fit for you. So you really got to you got to take everything with a grain of salt, come up with your own plan. But to your question, what generally would be the advice for how to put out a record, or what would the rollout be in terms of content? which I know is kind of the topic of this this conversation today. I mean, I'm just gonna super generalize because everyone's different. First of all, I love that there's an album, because most people have just given up on that format and just make one song at a time. And I think that's lame. You should have a body of work. You should, if you put out 4 singles, you should at least merge them together and call it an EP and create some artwork for them as a full body of work. But I mean, nowadays people can put out a lot more singles than they used to, right? So instead of the old school, pick your first single, your second single, if your label lets you, and then the rest of the songs come out on the street date or the release date of the album. A lot of people are thinking, well, we need to spread it out. Let's put out a song every month for 6 months, and then we'll have the official release, right? The advantage being people, you know, tend to consume one song at a time. People's attention spans are really short. The editorial support that we're all craving, like the thing that I'm praying for when I wake up Friday mornings on a release day, is that the new Friday Spotify playlist pick this up, Apple Music playlist pick this. Like the world that we live in is one where whereas we used to obsess over PR, and it was, is this blog gonna write about us? Like we've shifted a lot of our focus from PR over to the editorial universe of these companies. And you know, people think that there's an algorithm and a machine that just spits out whether or not they like your song or whether they put you on a playlist, but there's actual people that work at these companies that listen to music and get excited about it and then support you. And that's the editorial side. That's the world that I focus a lot of energy. So back to this idea of the rollout, each single that you release gives you another shot to get support, right? The problem in the digital world is that you'd release an album, unless you're Beyonce or something, like only one of those songs is really going to potentially get considered for immediate playlist support. If you think about the mechanism that most people use, if you go into Spotify for artists, which if you're not into, you should definitely log into that and set that up. It's really important. There's a pitch function where you get to pitch one song. So when you release an album, they're kind of cluing you into how they work. They're saying, pick one out of your 10 songs today. I'm going to pick one song and we'll look at one song. It's great. I mean, they've basically removed all the gatekeepers and said, you get to pitch to our people just like all these labels, just like everyone else. You know, whether that's true, I don't know. Spotify's owned by major labels. So whether or not they really are treating you fairly, probably not. But to know that there's even a shot, I think that's what we're all looking for. We're hoping that we can wake up on a Friday. It's actually like in the early afternoon that you find out whether you landed on the big playlist, and it's awesome. It's a really great day when you know that, you know, 50,000 people are going to hear your song in the first week. It's a great start to a release. So we're kind of misguided, I think, a lot by that desire for playlist support, and that's where the industry has gone away from the album format. But I would say create a great album. I think mixing an album as an album, mastering an album as an album makes for better music, and then release those as singles. It just requires a lot more preparation. It's much cheaper to just do one song at a time. It's much easier to get through your overdubs on one song than it is to finish an entire body of work.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way we've approached those 4 records so far. I think you have to submit the single 7 days, at least 7 days ahead of the actual album release, as far as the single that you pick, that you're pitching. I guess my question then too is, like, touring, assuming you can ever have that again, were you looking for those dates during the recording of the album, or is that something you waited to line up until you had those things to pitch? Were you developing videos along with that content? Because again, once the album's out, there really is no single release anymore. You got to have some visual or something to get people hyped about it.
Yeah, well, you brought up a couple things. Number one on the visuals. Remember, visuals, you can premiere videos after your album's out. So you can have videos that come out after. So when you create a marketing campaign or you think about your rollout, make sure it's not all in front of the date of the release. Make sure it's not all, they call that kind of too top heavy. So you have stuff before and you got stuff after. Think about exciting content that can engage people and remind them, oh, my record came out 2 weeks ago. It came out last month. And that tends to be videos, right? There's no I mean, people do they release a single of a song on their album. You can do that. You can re-release the same song and package it as a single, but it's not the same thing. Your fans know that that song was on that album. It's not new. So it is, there's on the visual side, that's one perspective. On the touring side, since you brought it up, yes, the answer is yes. Everything is done well in advance. And I don't want to get too far into making movies business. We're finishing up their new album right now. We are thinking about the release, and we have, there's touring is a big guide. I don't think we're going to be touring till next fall at the earliest. But there's also, Grammy submission deadlines. If you're in the world of Latin music, if you want to be considered for next year, your record's got to come out by the end of May. And I want those guys to go back to the Latin Grammys, and this time I want them to win. So I think, I think we should try for that. So there's a lot of considerations, but no, the answer is everything is planned well in advance. Ideally, there's a stage where you're creative and you make a record, and then you budget the time needed to market the record. That's another thing. I mean, all the artists I work with, we always make the same mistake. We never budget enough time. So we end up like in the mixing phase while we're producing a video, or I feel like in the mixing phase, you can kind of, as long as you're not the mixer, you can jump into marketing mode and start making videos. But certainly while you're recording and creating the album, certainly while you're writing, you shouldn't be marketing. Like, best advice I could give you guys would be finish and then market. Finish and then pick your street date. Finish and then look at the calendar and go 6 months ahead minimum. If you think about it, that's what the record labels are. That's like the one thing they're good at, is giving you real deadlines. And when is a record done? It's done when you had to stop. We could work on this record. Enrique and I can spend hours every day working on every song forever. Every day it'll be a fresh perspective, and we'll want to mute this and add this. Doesn't make it better. So it's you just set a deadline. Independent artists don't have that team that usually gives them those deadlines. I had to make a record once for a hip hop group, Zion I, that I managed in 10 days, the entire record, because the label told us that if we don't turn it in by this date, the first of the next month, it will not come out in time for the tour. And we were going to make the record the next month. And we had the tour already booked, and we needed the record to make the tour financially, strong. And we stayed out for 10 days and made a record, turned it in. It was nuts. Don't ever do that. But separate your creative process from the business and the marketing as much as possible. Don't do them at the same time.
Okay. Thank you.
Brandon, you've got some amazing questions. Can you unmute yourself, please?
Yeah, I got a bunch of stuff. First, real quick on the pre-release, do you try and get folks to pre-save Spotify so it hits really hard on Thursday? That way on Friday you're getting the majority of your fans to hit, so you have a chance to chart both Apple iTunes and Spotify.
Sure. Yeah, we do. We generate the pre-save campaigns and those links. I don't know how many fans are really interested in pre-saves. Like we used to run ads on those campaigns, meaning we would put a little bit of money behind a pre-save. We now budget and put all that money on the smart link on the street date, which again, a lot of lingo being turned around. That's everybody understand what I'm saying? The smart link is basically the fancy link that links out to all the different services that you get to pick from. I think spending money on that is a better use of resources than focusing on a pre-save, but okay. We certainly try.
Are you utilizing Sound Exchange, or do you have somebody on your team that is filling out those spreadsheets?
So Sound Exchange is not a publishing. I mean, it kind of falls into the world of publishing admin, but it's really master side revenue. It's more label money. There is multiple revenue streams from Sound Exchange, one of which a lot of people don't know about and don't ever collect, which is the musicians on the recording, the mixers, the engineers, the people that make the record. You get a royalty for that. So yeah, we deal with, we do all the admin for everyone. We organize all their publishing. I consider Sound Exchange to be kind of fall under that world, even though it's technically master side royalties that are being generated. but yeah, we work really hard on making sure that that stuff happens. When a producer and an artist work together, they're supposed to sign a letter of direction. They're supposed to appoint the rights to the producer. It's just, yeah, music business is really fun. A lot of spreadsheets.
So
Now what you,
jumping back, I mean, or just continuing through that, are you using ASCAP, BMI, or both? Do you prefer one over the other? And then, since we're not having live venue concerts, are you registering the performance online in the same way we used to register performances of copywritten content?
yeah. Sure. So just to be clear, I'm not a songwriter. I mean, I've written some songs. I've helped people write the bridge of their song, and so I do have an ASCAP account. I'm with ASCAP, but I think you're talking more about my clients. So yeah. My artists are with all of them: CSAC, ASCAP, BMI. I don't think one is cheaper than the others. BMI, I think I told my students for 6 years, sign up for BMI only because it's a little cheaper than ASCAP. For ASCAP, for you to collect, at least this was the case up till a year ago, for ASCAP to collect your publishing royalty, you had to pay them money. BMI would collect, you could register a free writer's account and you could check the box and they would collect your publishing money. I do not advise that as the long-term solution. You should register your entity, pay the $50 or whatever it is, set up your publishing company. But honestly, a lot of artists I'm finding are never going to do it right. They're never going to fill out all the paperwork, and they're never going to administer their publishing rights. So I've just said, here you go, meet Songtrust. Downtown Music Publishing is one of the best companies in the game, and you can let them administer your publishing for $100 it costs to set up, and they take 15%. And the reason why I've been leaning way more into that, I mean, I want young people to learn how to do this as a teacher, as a professor, but if you want to just cut to the chase, like, you're never going to collect your international royalties doing it yourself. So you're going to have to affiliate with a Songtrust type of deal or company eventually.
Yeah, they have amazing webinars too.
They do.
Maybe I didn't make sense. What I'm talking about is when an artist owns their publishing and they own their, the notes and the lyrics and also the master, and they go and perform. Like
sorry. Yeah, I understand. I didn't answer that question. Yeah, so ASCAP on stage, we used to do it on tour. My tour manager, the checklist for the tour manager would be to submit that and fill out all the paperwork. Same thing for like sound, for the reporting to reporting the sales at the merch table and stuff for Billboard charting. Like, yeah, the question is, does that still apply in the streaming world? I don't think so. I haven't done it, but I also haven't looked into it. If you think about it, the streaming platforms will have their own relationship with music publishers. So it seems like it would be doing it twice. It's not a live performance. I don't know that ASCAP and BMI, while they certainly do have a right to monetize that or to monitor that, I don't know that that's how it works. Like YouTube, for example, those 4 royalties that YouTube pay out are already predefined. So I wouldn't need to go in, and I don't think I would need to tell YouTube via ASCAP or BMI what the performance was. But it is a good question. I mean, it depends on who your publisher is, if you have anyone that represents your music. Because if you're performing your own song and you haven't monetized your video correctly, you might be leaving money on the table. Yeah. But I'm pretty sure the process doesn't involve ASCAP on stage, or I think BMI's program was called BMI Live. That would be when you're really physically in a venue, and that's important. A lot of people don't do that correctly. Even if you're playing a coffee shop, the coffee shop is probably, you got to be careful. You don't want to get a house concert person busted reporting BMI that you played music in a concert venue that's not a real concert venue. So be careful with that one. But if you're in a venue, they have to pay these companies. And so what you're doing is you're saying, I'd like a little bit of that money back, please, because I played my own music tonight. It's really good. Any other, did I answer your question?
Sean's got a really good one.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.
Sean, do you want to address your question about DJs and playlists?
So I know that, Spotify has its own sort of company sponsored playlists, and I don't know how many they have, but there's also a lot of private playlist people that seem to have a fairly decent following. And that kind of seems to me like maybe that's the new radio DJ. Do you spend any effort trying to promote music to those types of folks, trying to find them? And I've looked into a little bit. I can't find how you contact any of them, so I don't even know how you reach them to like say, "Hey, here's my stuff." But
yeah, it's interesting. You nailed it when you said it's kind of like the new radio space. Radio, to me, radio promotion implies payola. It implies that you pay someone and they've got a little store set up, and if you pay them, then they'll play it. That world is very similar because the business of that is, there's nothing unethical about it. It's just the way it is. Someone's got a product and they're selling it and you can buy it. I don't spend money on that. I know lots of people that do. I worked with a band called the band Camino, who were my students, who are now superstars with, I don't know what their numbers are these days, but it's kind of insane. Let's see, the band Camino, they 2.5 million monthly listeners. They're like 23-year-olds that came out of my program at the University of Memphis, recorded that first record in my studio in Memphis, which has 44 million streams on one of those songs. So they're doing pretty well. They started their career by paying one of those companies, and I told them not to. So I don't know the answer.
Yeah, I didn't know if anybody, because we've talked to a couple of PR companies, and like one said, "Oh, we don't even do that," and another one said, "Yeah, I do this." I'm like, "Well, how do you, because we've tried looking into ourselves, like as a band, and I haven't been able to figure out how you even reach those private playlist makers.
Yeah.
Like, how do you even get there?"
There's a Facebook group that I would encourage you all to join, even if you're not an artist manager. It's called Artist Managers Connect. There's 7,000 music managers all over the country, and there's lots of people that are not managers that just found their way on there. And there's the most knowledgeable people. I mean, there's a lot of people that don't know what they're talking about, but most of them do. And majority of the conversation is this. I just don't focus on it because I'd rather spend the money on creating great content and lean into my relationships with people than like buy access to something. Like, I'm blessed that I've done this for 20 years. I've represented a bunch of artists who these people respect. So I can email Spotify myself. I can email Apple Music myself. I can email these companies. And I can't do it all the time. I can't go hard every week on every release. I have to pick the priority projects. But I mean, all these DSPs have an artist relations person. So they have label relations people. I mean, Pandora has people that just interface with folks like us. And if you don't know who they are, go on LinkedIn and look them up. Like, everyone is reachable. Like, I think it just comes down to, where do you want to spend your time? Where do you want to spend your money? I would rather spend money making great content, renting studios, and hiring great camera people with amazing cameras, and like that being that be where the money goes. I'm not going to tell anyone to hire a Surefire. No offense to Surefire Media, but there won't be any more $12,000 PR campaigns coming from my company anymore. I'm over that stuff.
What about
I'll pay like $1,000 max.
Well, you have all these services that to market to different playlist operators, like a Submit Hub. Have you ever had any artists use them?
I haven't, but I mean, yeah, I have. Like Submit Hub, Band Camino use them, and it worked. They're famous now and make more money than I do. So I'm not an expert on anything here, guys. I just have some opinions and, done this for a while. Doesn't make me right about any of it. Take it all with a grain of salt. So I just don't lean into that. Maybe we should. Maybe we should spend $300 on that and see what happens. Maybe we'll do that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, we got about 10 minutes or so left. Does anyone else have any questions, or do you have anything else you want to add, Ben?
I want to know if my parents are still listening. Dad, are you still there?
Yeah, we're still here.
Do you have any questions about releasing music, Dad, since you're really an expert on the music business? My parents are both academics and don't know the music business. I'm just kidding, Dad. I don't mean to make fun of you. No need to keep talking. All right. Anyone else have any questions?
Can you tell us about the program at the University of Memphis? I literally just realized, oh, that's the job you vacated because I saw it on Higher Ed Jobs.
Yeah.
I teach music business at the University of Kansas. So
Oh,
I'm just always looking for what's going on. I'm an artist and own my own publishing and have for 30 years. My dad's a touring musician. So I'm always looking
amazing.
for new things. So what's up with Memphis?
Oh, well, Alandis Brazel took over my position, entertainment attorney from Nashville, who's a good friend of mine, and it's pretty awesome. But if he doesn't work out or leaves, then you should definitely look out for that job. University of Memphis is just, I mean, I loved it. It was great. I didn't leave because I wasn't happy. I left because my wife got her dream job at Emory, and now we live in Atlanta. It was one of those.
I missed that part of it. That all makes perfect sense. I was thinking you just left the tenure gig because you liked making movies. I got it twisted.
No, I do like making movies. Making movies got me back in the beginning. I was saying they kind of got me back in the artist development space. Like my client before making movies was Mickey Hart from the Grateful Dead, who I wasn't developing. He was pretty famous before I met him. I was more like babysitting. Would that be the right word? Is that a nice thing to say? Maybe not.
What years did you work with Mickey?
Is this a broadcast on the internet, Bo? Does this live on the web, this conversation?
Yeah, it will as an unlisted link, kind of as an archive.
Unlisted sounds good. Yeah, no, I love Mickey Hart. He taught me a ton, but it was literally the reason I went away from artist management because it was very demanding. Mickey's brilliant, and frankly, taught me a lot about music. Love you, Mickey. But in terms of your question, I lost track, so I'm worried about Mickey Hart.
I'm just curious. I know Mickey also, and I used to tour with a band called Particle that played with Mickey. So I'm curious what years you worked with Mickey.
Oh, before I moved to Memphis. So what are the 4 years before? So 2009 through 2013.
Oh, okay.
I took over after Brian Schwartz.
Right on.
Previously, it was Irving Azoff was the manager before that. No, it was amazing. Great experience. I did 2 records with Mickey, produced 2 of his albums, and we did a lot of touring. And then we had a baby, and then touring wasn't as fun anymore. I'd go on a tour for a month and come home, and my daughter Noah would be like a different person. I was like, what did I just miss? So I don't do that anymore. Now I'm here with my family. But yeah, good to know you, Brandon. I didn't know you're an academic as well. Patrick.
Do you think there's a best time of year for a release, Ben, or a worst time? Album release?
No. I mean, whatever the conventional answer is, do the opposite because you'll stand out. That's what Mickey Hart would tell you to do. Whatever you're supposed to do the opposite.
It seems like it's that way with a lot of things in the music industry these days.
Yeah, you just got to be creative, I don't think there's a magic answer to any of these questions. It's just make great music and be thoughtful about how you set it up. Think about a song. I mean, what is a song? Since this is about releasing content, these aren't COVID specific ideas. I'm not giving you marketing ideas that are like a response to the coronavirus. It's just one thing I've learned is that a campaign is a lot more than just a song through a distributor that shows up. It's like a lot more thought and energy. And unfortunately, a lot of it involves the visual space. It involves, video and then turning a video into, 10 different pieces of content that can live in different forms. Like check out a campaign we launched last week or 2 Fridays ago for Lanita Smith. The song is called Holding On. Brilliant songwriter, not making movies. Music is in English, and it's we didn't have the time to finish the music video. The video is this collage of protests, old protest footage and new protest footage. And I literally got the first 50 seconds of the video back, and we didn't have time to finish it. And we decided, you know what, we're going to tease the video and put out a 50-second Instagram piece and be very intentional about it. Like we were planning it all along. And the week before the release, we pivoted, and it turned out to be brilliant. The video is still being produced. It's still going to be finished up in the next month. again, something that you can do. You can release a song and put a video out after you release the song. And you can still get traction on it, meaning you can send it out to media and see if they'll premiere a video, or you get fans excited, you get them re-energized. But
right.
Specifically, the Holding On campaign was, I put together a deck for the campaign. We pitched an organization, the BMAC, who are doing amazing work, amplifying, amplifying the voices of Black people in the music industry. And so it turned into a lot more than just a song, because we sort of had that vision for doing something bigger, and it's working. It's not streamed millions of times, but we haven't had any editorial support, and we're already at about 20,000 streams total across all the platforms. And what I feel like is that it's a campaign that's going to build. Like, that song will have hundreds of thousands, if not millions of streams at some point. We're just getting started.
Holding On.
Holding On, yeah, just
Okay.
no G.
What was the organization you mentioned? BMOC?
BMAC.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I just feel like the fall in general is troublesome. That's why I'm asking. Like you mentioned, with like right now, this next window, holidays, people are going to be checked out. If you're thinking about Grammy submissions.
Yeah, I don't know if I agree that everyone's checked out. Like, what happens next week? Everyone goes home, Thanksgiving. Is it a normal week to release something? No. Are you going to get industry emailing you back? No. But what if you plan to release next Friday and you've been working on it for 3 months and you've already got a bunch of interest?
Yeah.
A lot of editorial support is planned weeks in advance. You mentioned, or someone mentioned, 7 days in advance of a release.
Mm-hmm.
Our hard deadline to have all the assets submitted for a release is a month, 4 weeks. So I would just say,
gotcha.
More planning and more time, and then someone might have already written a story that gets published next Friday. And yes, it's the day after Thanksgiving, and people are watching football or doing whatever they do on.
Right.
Is there still football? I guess there's still football in COVID.
Yes.
So it's like, I don't know. I'm just not sure that there's a perfect answer to that question.
Okay.
I shared the BMAC, it's the Black Music Action Coalition, led by a friend, Binta Brown, who's an amazing lawyer and manager. We're donating the proceeds of Holding On, or I think half the proceeds go to the BMAC. And I'll send you guys right now in the chat check out this song. Lanita, wait, I just sent you the wrong link. Hold on. I'll give you a Spotify link for those of you that are on. There it is. I think we have 5 more minutes. I hope I was helpful. Is there any other questions? Anything else you want me to speak on? Can I ask just what you guys are up to? Those that haven't spoken, I've heard a lot from Patrick and Brandon, Katie, Joy, Diana. Anyone else? Like, are you guys artists? Do you make music? Are you songwriters? Is that why you're here?
I'm a radio DJ and a podcaster and one of the founders of the Heartland Song Network, and I'm not a musician. I'm a consumer and a patron. And so the reason I'm here today is to make sure that the content that we're providing to our members fulfills our mission. And I would most definitely say this does. And just thank you from the board for doing this for us today. And we'll be making this content available to all of our members and really to the public at large. So thank you for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you. Tell them all how much I learned from Mickey Hart. I did. He really is great.
I know you're worried about that. I can't wait.
I should never say a bad word about any previous client. He's quite a joy to work with. Just demanding, very demanding. Lots of Friday night calls at 7 p.m. But yeah, I mean, I'm happy to take any more questions. I can tell you we being the Making Movies team and I are dreaming up a strategy to put out this next record. I'm so excited for it. It's we've had the blessing of being able to cut this record in Memphis, where I used to live, at this amazing studio called Memphis Magnetic. It already sounds amazing, and we haven't mixed it yet. We're shopping around to find a mixer right now, but I'm pretty excited about it. It's the best songs that they've written, and definitely the best recording we've done. We've got a new drummer now, Duncan Burnett, who's a Olathe, Kansas kid who's brings some church kind of energy to the band, and he's killing. The record's super exciting, so I can't wait for you guys to check it out. And yeah, we definitely all just need to support each other right now. Is anyone doing crowdfunding, Patreon type stuff as artists? Are you guys dabbling in that world at all?
I just started one.
A Patreon?
Mm,
Cool. Well,
yeah,
I'll have to check it out.
A couple weeks ago. Yeah.
Nice. Well, we are, we started one and making movies, focused on it for about 2 weeks, and then got busy with Americana. So they got to 50 people really fast and then hasn't moved anything. But we're trying to build their Patreon and try to build them a base support network.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's tough without touring, and like, how do you make a living?
Mm-hmm.
But I would just say in closing, the COVID world, to me, the only silver lining is that this pause from touring is a chance to kind of go look at the way you do everything and take that extra time to just dissect it and rebuild it, put it back together. You know, are you doing publishing correctly? If you're not, go sign up for Songtrust. Let them do it for you. If you're not doing social media correctly, hire someone as a consultant to come in and just coach you. You know, they tend to do the same thing. They give you the buckets of what you're supposed to post about. They give you the prescription. You know, they tell you 2 posts of this a month and 2 posts of this and 2 of that. But I think it's helpful. I hate social media, and I'm not good at it. I hire other people that are way better at social media than I am. But all we have right now is social media and putting out music. So we want to learn how we can do it better. And then when touring comes back, then hopefully we can look back at this time and say, well, at least one benefit was that I got my shit together. I'm more organized moving forward.
Right on. Well, thank you so much, Ben. It's been a real pleasure. I learned a lot.
Thank you, Bo. Thanks for having me. What an honor. Appreciate you guys. And glad that my folks could be here to make it awkward.
I'll see you at Focal Alliance, hopefully, in a couple of years. Yeah.
In a couple of years. Oh, yeah, there's a virtual Focal Alliance, right?
Yeah, we're
supposed to be
heavily involved with that.
Yeah. We will see you there. Is Kansas City the host in 2022?
I believe so. Yeah.
Okay.
Diana,
Well,
you kind of know more what's going on with that, don't you? Oh, she's already gone. All right. Well, I guess we'll end it there.
great. And feel free to give my email out. I'm happy to answer some more questions if anyone has any follow-up. I can
Sure
type it in
thing.
the chat. All right. Well, I appreciate everyone, and go kick some butt. Thank you so much.
All
Thanks.
right. Have a
Thanks,
good day,
Ben.
Ben.
Stay safe.